2019 was perhaps the greatest year for cinema in the last 5 years, and absolutely great year to end this decade with. There were plenty of films that I extremely enjoyed this year, and I thought it would be appropriate to share a list of my favorite films this year with anyone who would like to know.
How long we known each other, Ken?
Starting from the bottom, Ford vs. Ferrari was the very last film I watched this year, and I had the pleasure to watch it with my friends. It's a racing biopic about how Carroll Shelby of the Shelby Car Series fame and English driver Ken Miles helped the Ford company beat Ferrari in the Le Mans race for the first time in history. It's stylish and exciting, even though it has a slow start, but it gets you more and more engaged in the story as it goes on. James Mangold, whose last film Logan saw great success both from the box office and the critics, has put an incredible amount of effort into directing this film. So much so that the film most probably would have failed without his presence. Even with the presence of such great actors as Christian Bale and Matt Damon. Bale steals every single scene he's in, and Damon's performance might be his best since his role in 2006's The Departed. The film's biggest fault is its cheesy and at times even annoying writing. Even the great performances can't always make the cliche dialogue sound authentic. But there's a reason why this film is in my top 10 list, and you should probably watch it.
You ready?
I was born ready, Mr. Shelby. Hit it.
Stay on.
Avengers Endgame is a direct sequel to Avengers Infinity War, and I'm sure almost everyone either knows about it or has watched it by now. After my disappointment with Infinity War in terms of exploring new territory in comic book movies, which I know is an unpopular opinion, I was not at all excited to watch the sequel. I remember after watching the last film, I thought how pointless Endgame is going to be. But I was seriously wrong and pleasantly surprised. This film has a daring and unexpected start to it, the kind that I had hoped Infinity War would pull off. It then introduces the exciting idea of time travel and uses it correctly to not only explore the most important characters of the MCU, but also to give them a deserving and emotional payoff. Endgame, along with last year's Black Panther, are the only Marvel films that have had an emotional impact on me, and that is a huge compliment. The very final scene of the film alone should tell you how different this film is from all the ones that came before it.
Whatever it takes.
Everyone, Bonnie made a friend in class.
Oh, she's already making friends.
No, she literally made a new friend. I want you to meet Forky.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
He's a spork.
Yes, yeah, I know.
Toy Story 4 is the surprise sequel to this animated franchise that arrives 9 years after the last film. I, like most other people, was not convinced of the necessity of the sequel when it was announced, since Toy Story 3 had so perfectly ended the chapter to an unforgettable trilogy. After having watched the film, I can't imagine the Toy Story series without this fourth entry. Somehow, Andrew Stanton, the writer, finds yet another emotional and memorable story to tell, and in a way I envy the younger generation that can grow up with a remarkable film like this. That being said, this fourth film definitely does not reach as high as the third one did. And that's not a bad thing, since it respectfully allows the first three films to stay as a singular and independent experience.
In your ear. Everything's gonna be okay.
To my right is Bounty Law series lead and Jake Cahill himself, Rick Dalton. And to my left is Rick's stunt double, Cliff Booth.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood marks the ninth feature film in director Quentin Tarantino's cinematic achievements, and it's definitely not a small one. With an impressive but not unexpected cast of actors such as Leonardo DiCaprio, Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie, and Al Pacino, the film is a star-driven homage to Hollywood's greatest years and how they ended, or rather how Tarantino wishes they never would have ended. With the usual great writing of Tarantino and a script that early on was supposed to be a novel, the film does not waste a single second during its hefty runtime of 2 hours and 40 minutes and does a great job of painting a believable picture of the late 60s Hollywood and mixing fictional and real-life characters together. The best thing about the film, though, is the way Tarantino uses all that setup to execute what is probably the only positive wish fulfillment that has been done in a movie. And of course, it's bloody, just the way Tarantino likes it.
Line. Cut! Embarrass yourself like that in front of all those goddamn people!
Ashes Pure as White is a lesser-known foreign film by the celebrated director Jia Zhangke, who is one of the most important directors in China. He's always been both fascinated by and critical of the industrialization of his home country, and going through his filmography is like reading through the history of the modern-day China. His latest film is a massive but intimate one that spans across 16 years, from 2001 to 2017. It tells a love story of gang members Chao and Bin, whose lives go in wildly unpredictable directions after a violent incident forces them apart. The film has my favorite cinematography of this year, and looks absolutely stunning and unbelievable in every frame. Although I felt a bit emotionally distant towards the characters throughout the film, the tragedy and the weight of its emotions hit me like a train just a day after watching it. It's a difficult watch for people who don't enjoy art house and indie films, or films with a slow pacing in general. But definitely give it a chance if the description of the film interests you even a little bit.
I've been
What I love about Nicole,
loving you
she's a great dancer. Infectious.
too long.
Marriage Story is Noah Baumbach's latest film, and one of the two incredible films made by Netflix this year. Baumbach is known for being one of the best screenwriters out there, and all of his films are character-focused dramas that have a very heavy reliance on dialogue and long conversation scenes. It's always a treat to sit back and watch his characters talk and interact as they go about their normal lives, and not many writer-directors are capable of creating such a level of engagement in a film that at first glance might not seem like anything special at all. Marriage Story is no exception to his rules and just might be his best written film yet. It's a story about, you guessed it, a marriage that falls apart and how the characters take it and what they go through. There's much more to it than you imagine just by reading the description of the film, trust me. This one is an absolute gem of a drama.
Somebody make me come through. I'll always be there, as frightened as you, to help us survive. Being alive, being alive.
Arthur, does it help to have someone to talk to?
Joker is a comic book film that somehow found its way towards the top of my list this year. Directed by Todd Phillips, yes, the Hangover Todd Phillips, this film surprises in every possible way. Led by an unmatched performance by Joaquin Phoenix, Joker tells the origin story of the Batman villain on a surface level. Beneath that, however, the character of Joker is a brilliant excuse to put the downward spiral of outcasts and socially challenged people that end up as a threat to society on display, and how by ignoring such people we create more of them. Although the film caused an outrage in the US in fear of acts of terrorism, it has a sense of responsibility that inspires empathy in place of ignorance. And I haven't even mentioned the technical brilliance of it all, as well as Hildur Guðnadóttir's fantastic score for the film. In spite of Joker's mixed critical response, I encourage you to watch the film and decide its worth for yourself.
If you just smile.
This is Major Roy McBride. I'm attempting to reach Dr. Clifford McBride. This is Dr. McBride's son. Dad, I'd like to see you again.
Ad Astra is a science fiction drama about an astronaut called Roy McBride who travels the entire solar system to find his long-lost father. It's Brad Pitt's second great film this year and is directed by James Gray, who is somewhat of a late bloomer as a director. This is the first film of his that I watched, and it was a unique and extraordinary experience the first time I watched it. But somehow, and this doesn't happen often, the second time I watched this film, it connected with me on an incredible level and made me genuinely emotional. It's quite a metaphorical journey, as pretentious as that might sound, and many people do find James Gray and his films pretentious. To me, Ad Astra is an honest work and many of its themes rank true to my own personal experiences. It's a film that definitely does not please everyone, and honestly, I'm even hesitant as to recommend it to other people. I watched the film twice in the theaters, and neither time were the audience content with the experience when the film was over. I would only recommend it to other cinephiles and people who are not looking for another Star Wars or even Gravity.
The world awaits our discovery, my son.
뭐야, 소독해? 창문 닫아.
나도 봐. 공짜로 집안에 소독도 하고.
Parasite is an incredible foreign film from the well-known Korean director Bong Joon-ho, about a family of charlatans that one by one make their way into the house of a rich family by planning a scam. I've been a fan of Bong since I first saw his thriller masterpiece The Host when I was only 13. Since then, he has made Snowpiercer, which is one of my favorites, and Okja, which is a surprisingly sweet film released for Netflix in 2017. His style of black comedy is an iconic one, which he uses like glue to perfectly mix different genres together into one. Parasite is without a doubt his best attempt at genre blending yet, and probably his best film as well. The commentary on social classes, as always, is his main focus in the film, and he never fails to deliver it with a powerful sting. It's a modern classic that will only be cherished more as it grows older. After talking about a film that I couldn't recommend to most people, it's only fitting to have a film that I absolutely recommend to everyone. Whether or not you care about cinema at all, you have to watch Parasite. longest time, I was indecisive between Parasite and this final film as to which was my favorite of 2019. But I have to say that my favorite film of this year is Martin Scorsese's last mob film, The Irishman. This was another film that I had to watch twice to make up my mind about, and I was lucky enough to watch it a week before its release on Netflix on the big screen. I have to say, it's an absolute shame that this film did not get a wide release in the cinemas, but I recommend you to watch it on the biggest screen possible. The Irishman is about the real events of Jimmy Hoffa's involvement with the mafia and his relationship with the main character, Frank Sheeran. The film has a similar style to Scorsese's previous mob films such as Goodfellas or Casino, but it's a completely different take on the subject. It's how far it narratively goes and how it differs itself from other typical gangster films that makes this film special. While many such films revel in the shininess and also the dirtiness of the gangster life, The Irishman depicts the eventual hollowness of it, as well as the guilt-inducing nature of living such a life. It reminds us that these people were real, and their lives were just as wasted as the ones they brutally murdered. In that way, it's the essential mob film and the one I would recommend to someone who has never seen a film like Goodfellas or Wolf of Wall Street before. It's 3.5 hours long, but every minute is as worthwhile as it gets.
We'll bring you back after you get your car.
Yeah.
There are more films in 2019 that will be released next year in Europe, so apologies for leaving out films like Robert Eggers' The Lighthouse, the incredible Greta Gerwig's Little Women, Mati Diop's Atlantics, the Safdie brothers' Uncut Gems, Joanna Hogg's The Souvenir, Lulu Wang's The Farewell, Gonby's Long Days and Journey into Night, Bohu's and Elephant Sitting Still, and many, many more that I can't recall at the moment. Thank you for watching this video for as long as you have. Not many people probably have watched it all the way through, so you might be the only one, and I really appreciate it. I would also be really interested to know your list of favorite films this year, and thank you for putting the time and listening to me talk about films. Thanks.